So I'll call the meeting to order. Stone Mills Council regular meeting, June 19th, 2023. Welcome, everyone. We have no 3-minute delegations. Our agenda is as printed. Can I get approval of the agenda as it's presented? Doug and Sherry, any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Any conflicts of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof from tonight's agenda? None declared. The minutes of our June 5th, 2023 meeting. Can I get a mover and seconder to receive those minutes? Wendy and Sherry. Anything arising from those minutes anyone wants to discuss? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Delegations. Alan Mayer has a delegation. Alan, do you want to come up to one of those two microphones? If you press the silver button, that will turn the microphone on. Sure, they slide around. They're portable.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry I'm wearing a mask. I'm a counselor, and if I caught COVID, especially long COVID, I wouldn't be able to do my job, and it would ruin me. So I hope I'm still clear enough.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So historians are fond of saying that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But I have come here to remind Council about the damage and distress we experienced when Blue Earth installed a solar farm in our community. I have no PowerPoint presentation, but in my mind's eye, I see people addressing Council at a meeting held on February 11th, 2019. I still see the pain in their eyes. I hear the choked up voices as they told us about the destruction and devastation they'd experienced. Now, I know those are two big words, but everyone who was there that night knows they are not an exaggeration. John, you were there? Doug? Sherry? I was there too. I'm a counselor, as I said earlier. I deal with people's problems. And I found it hard to hear the pain, the emotional distress, and even trauma, which is not a word I use inaccurately, people expressed that night. I'm going to read from an article published in the Napanee Beaver shortly after that meeting on February 14th, 2019. Stone Mills Township residents impacted by the Loyalist Solar Project had their chance to speak about their experiences Monday evening, and most didn't hold any words back. At a special meeting, councillors listened as many of the 30 residents in attendance passionately shared their disappointment over community division, noise and traffic 7 days a week, environmental impacts, potential losses in property values, and misleading promises associated with the installation of the 54-megawatt project near Centerville. There were tears shed and raised voices. One of the speakers, Jasmine Cameron, showed council contrasting photos of County Road 27, looking before construction, a pastoral view with few man-made elements that she considered an extension of her driveway, to a view with 50-foot poles lining the right-hand roadside, each with 11 wires running among them. Some people have said they're angry. I oscillate between being angry and sad and disappointed, she said. Every time I make that turn now, my heart sinks. Who thinks this is a really beautiful, tranquil place to live? Who wants to come here? Cameron said even before those poles went up, she felt feelings of divisiveness and secrecy as landowners who signed contracts with the developer weren't able to speak. She said residents started out feeling they were working together to foster sustainable, renewable energy, but felt the project didn't go as expected. She said during construction, her property line had been violated. Wood from fallen trees promised to landowners was removed from the land, and residents were repeatedly treated with disrespect by workers. By her estimate, thousands of creatures' lives were lost in the build, and residents suffered without their consent. I put the suffering and death on Blue Earth. And it doesn't go away, she said. Those lines are there. As an aside, the lines are still there, but Jasmine Cameron isn't. She moved away from Stone Mills Township. Peter Lewis, another resident along the transmission route, called the process overwhelming. He spoke about narrowing of fragile roads, the use of wooden skids to fill potholes, and an inability of construction trucks to stay on the road. He said, my property value, whoops. He also challenged that terminology in a community vibrancy agreement that would make solar panel sites not visible from public roads was not sufficiently adhered to. Tracy Asseltine and her husband Dan live on Edges Road along the transmission line. Asseltine said she looked at other communities divided by renewable projects like Wolf Island, Amherst Island, and Milford, and spoke of how they haven't yet healed. She said, it's incredibly arrogant to come into a community to tell people who have lived there for many years how it should be where they live. We are the caretakers of the land. Asseltine didn't feel enough community consultation took place. They should have come into the community, gathered all the landowners affected, and they should have said exactly where, what, and how they were going to proceed, and ask each and every one of us how they could make us happy before any permissions were granted. Tom Bridge moved to a property adjacent to the project in 2012. He said he and his partner were drawn to their home because of a small lake, fields for farming, and gorgeous trails of forest and trees. The construction and a lowering of his road that impacted the angle of his driveway changed that. Walking down my property, I actually cried, seeing the devastation and change. We did not buy this property for it to look like this. It's done. There's nothing I can do or say to change the way it looks. He said, my property value is greatly reduced. Councillors were limited in their comments. Newcomer Sherry Milligan responded by saying, I just honestly feel sick right now. Deputy Reeve John Wise said he was aware of most of the issues presented because there was a great communication from residents to council, but stated it's obvious that for one reason or another, there wasn't great communications from Blue Earth and its subcontractors to residents, particularly along the transmission line. Wise said nothing could be done about many of the stories shared as they related to construction that was finished, but added they will contribute to the township's knowledge base for future projects. Knowledge base for future projects. Well, now the future projects have arrived. They're here. What have we learned? We learned that Blue Earth doesn't keep its word. In counseling, we tell clients, don't pay attention to what people say. Look at what they do. And what Blue Earth did not match their pretty PowerPoint presentations that are made by personable people. Because it turns out, those people are not the ones in charge of the actual work that takes place. They farm that out and make no effort, once they have permission to do it, to ensure the subcontractors know what's promised. In short, their presentations are great, but their execution stinks. Take what happened to us on Murphy Road. It was once one of the loveliest county roads in Stone Mills. At the corner of Murphy and County Road 14, now you can see the giant poles and unsightly wires. Blue Earth erected, and they don't match the prospect of the road at all. Fortunately, and mainly thanks to John, Blue Earth agreed to bury their cable most of the way on Murphy. But before work was to begin, the Ministry of Natural Resources required Blue Earth to put up exclusion fencing. That's fencing to keep animals and amphibians off the road. It was supposed to go up before hibernation season ended, but Blue Earth waited till afterwards when the animals were already on the move. And when it was put up, it wasn't done correctly. There were gaps in the fabric that the frogs and turtles, some blandings, and snakes could crawl through. But then when they got on the road, there was no corresponding hole on the other side. So instead of Blue Earth excluding the creatures, it trapped them on the road, left them to either dry out or be run over. Now, we, of course, complained, but it was only when my wife Tammy took it upon herself to rescue the creatures that any were saved. Day after day, from dawn to dusk, she walked up and down Murphy in the hot summer sun, photographing those that had died and saving those that were still alive. Tammy will tell you more about her experience with Blue Earth. But here's the point. If Blue Earth can't be trusted with a simple task like exclusion fencing that does what it's supposed to do and doesn't kill hundreds of creatures instead, why would you let them construct a BESS so complicated one doesn't even exist in Canada? That's just nuts. And you know it's nuts. When you compare the damage from the solar project that I just read you about to what is possible with the BESS, it's as if Blue Earth did all the previous damage with a slingshot. Now they're coming or going to come to you and ask for an assault rifle. Why? Why would you even consider this dangerous, harebrained, stupid scheme? Well, we know why. Because of the Vibrancy Fund and all the money promised to pay to the township annually. At the last council meeting, one of the members pointed out correctly that council had a financial responsibility to consider the proposition. But that is the most pernicious part of the proposal. Blue Earth wouldn't be offering that kind of money if they didn't know there would be risk and dislocation and damage to people in the area. The moment this project gets the go-ahead, homeowners on Miller Road will see their property values plummet. But Blue Earth is hoping the council's financial responsibility to the township might override its responsibility to preserve and protect our right to the peaceful enjoyment of our properties. They hope the money blinds you to your responsibility to safeguard the very environment and character of the township that inspired us to invest in homes here. They hope, and sorry, the mask is making it hard to breathe when I'm getting so worked up. Where was I? They hope you'll overlook your duty to ensure that terrible burdens are not placed on some of Stone Mill's residents for the supposed benefit of all. Blue Earth is hoping the money will outweigh your responsibility to us, the people that live and make our homes here. But here's what I don't understand. You have a way of raising money that is fair and equitable to all without destroying lives and homes. It's called taxes. If council needs money, raise our taxes. No risk, no damage, no putting the safety and well-being of the entire township at the mercy of an untested technology built by a company that's proven to you it can't be trusted. Oh, no, though, you might be thinking. We can't raise taxes. People won't like it. But what's the alternative Blue Earth is proposing? Let the folks on Miller Road and those like us close by lose everything so somebody else at the other end of the township gets a tax break. That's not fair. It's not fair to the residents of Stone Mills or to you, the council. That's how Blue Earth took advantage of you the last time. You're people of goodwill. And so you assume Blue Earth was too. But now you know how they operate. You know how little they care about the townspeople who rely on you to protect their interests. So here's what I'm here to ask. I know that Blue Earth has not made a formal application to council, but that doesn't have to stop you from taking action. Council can vote on a motion by which it decides it will not consider any application by Blue Earth to place a BESS in the township of Stone Mills. It informs Blue Earth that based on Blue Earth's terrible track record already in the community and the damage it subjected residents to during the solar farm installation, and based on the untested technology it is proposing and its unacceptable level of risk, and finally, based on the inherently unfair nature of its proposition, whereby some taxpayers assume a greater loss and risk than others, Council has determined it will not consider an application by Blue Earth for a BESS in Stone Mills. You can do it now and end all the upset we're already suffering at the prospect of these carpetbaggers coming back. Say no to Blue Earth and its BESS right now the way other townships have. Don't let them sucker you with the Vibrancy Fund. Don't give Blue Earth a second chance to wreak far more damage than they did the last time they were let loose here. Now, I may have outworn my welcome, suggesting you raise the taxes. What, big pardon? Yes. I'll close by telling you a story I once read, a science fiction story. It was about a psychological test whereby the subject was brought into a room, sat down at a table with $1 million on the table, cash, and a red button. And the subject was told if they pushed the button, they could walk away with the $1 million cash. The only thing was, if they pushed that button, they were told somebody somewhere would die. They wouldn't know who would die, they wouldn't know where, they wouldn't know how, and most of all, they would not be held responsible. They could walk away with the money and never worry about the fact that they killed somebody, but they would know. Now, of course, the author wanted the readers to try that on. Would you do it? Would you press the button for the $1 million? John, Sherry, Wenda, because that's what Blue Earth is doing. They are putting the button in front of you with the money and asking you to press it. I beg you, don't do this to yourselves. Don't do this to us, because if you press that button, more than one person will lose the life they currently enjoy in this township. And it will haunt you even long after you leave council. Learn the lesson from our sad history with Blue Earth, so it doesn't repeat itself with even more dire consequences. Please refuse to consider taking their dirty money at the expense of our lives.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions or comments? Yes, Doug.
I'll comment, seeing as how I was my honorable mention in the meeting. Yes, I did make a statement at the last meeting about the Vibrancy Fund. Blue Earth is a corporate citizen, same as you or any other person around this table. So when they come, they have to be treated the same as everybody else. And whether we make a decision in favor or against, it has to be done for valid reasons, has to be done for factual reasons. And to make a decision, you have to have all the facts on the table. In the discussion last meeting, that fact was not out on the table of how much money it was that, where it wasn't a plea to accept the money. It was simply a sharing of information, okay? And I also premised that, if you were listening, by saying, if it turns out that's unsafe, I'll be the first one to say no. And you have people in the audience tonight who have heard me say that before. I do have a long memory. And I used the term constipation for a reason on the first time I talked to them, because it was painful like constipation, okay, dealing with it. We have to improve from that, and I agree with the first part of your statement, Helen. We need to learn from that. But this is 7 years later, so we have to listen to what comes to us. If we don't, if we treat it frivolously, we then put ourselves into jeopardy legally by not giving them the respect that they do. Okay, I'll just say it to you that way. I mean, we could be targeted for for a frivolous decision. Let's put it that way. So just making that aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Doug, I agree that you have a financial responsibility, and I appreciate you enlarging on what you said. I guess my question is, you say Blue Earth is a corporate citizen, but they don't live in Stone Mills. They're not based in Stone Mills. I don't believe they have the same right of consideration that people who live here and have paid taxes here for 30 years, and I don't know how many people on Miller Road have been paying taxes for the years, but I wonder why the real citizens of Stone Mills are not necessarily taken into account as much as a corporate citizen. And I called them a carpetbagger from Calgary, on some level trying to cash in on Doug Ford's desire to get energy for the province. And if they were in a reasonable place that wasn't going to affect people's land values and the safety of their homes, who cares? Great. But the fact that they picked such a sensitive place shows that they're not really giving any consideration to the people who actually live here. They were giving more consideration to the fact that that place happens to be close to their distribution system. But I appreciate you pointing out what you did. I am not questioning in any way council's integrity. I think it's tough to be you. I'd hate to have to make this decision. That's why I said it will haunt you even after you're on council. I just thought, do we have to go through a year or two of environmental surveys and they saying, well, this is how you put out the fire, and Stone Mills fire people saying, well, we don't know if we can do that or not. And we are suffering. Some of us are, I don't want to use the word traumatized, but it's like, they're like a bad boyfriend. They already abused us once, and now they're coming back with the pretty words again. And as this goes on for a year or a year and a half, because Blue Earth is trying to play out the clock, then we're wondering, are we going to be safe? Should we sell? Should we get out now before this thing goes in and our property values crash? So that's why I'm suggesting you say no now, because if you ask the people, and I'm sure you know, you were at the meeting, you heard that you could read the room. We're afraid. We're afraid because of what they did the last time. And that was a simple solar project. This one, it's like, you could tell when they answer, they don't have they don't have a clue about what they're talking about. They're just sort of making it up, trying to snow us. Anyways, thanks for the extra time. I appreciate
No, that's fine.
it.
This is the discussion time, Alan. Your presentation time was 15 minutes. Go ahead, Wendy.
I just had a question. You mentioned that some townships are not accepting Blue Earth. Do you have any names of townships? Or?
Oh, Wendy, you're so sharp. You caught me on a place I didn't do my homework. I know that I think I had heard something like Picton, I think, had turned, I don't know if they turned Blue Earth down, but they turned the storage system down. But if you want, I will happily do some research and send you an email.
Wenda.
Just to answer Wendy's question, Greater Napanee turned them down in December.
But I think there were others.
Yes, there
besides
were,
great,
but that's the one closest to home.
yes.
Just wanted to thank you, Alan, for coming tonight. That was a very impassioned speech, and it definitely aligns with how I've been feeling since this all started. Um, I know that we should be waiting and seeing where things go scientifically and environmentally before we make a decision, before we even, before they give us their request. But I hate waiting. I'm not a patient person. I want the decision made
Well, people are
now.
suffering. Tracy, my wife is going to speak here at another meeting, and she will tell you about the stress and anxiety she's felt personally, deep personal stuff, because she saved those creatures every day and came across the dead ones every day. And the idea that this corporate entity is back, but this time with a far more complex, untested situation, it's putting us, I'm less anxious than she is, but it's putting many people I know in the township in distress. And I'm just wondering why. And frankly, I don't even know when is the next council election? 3 years? Oh, okay. Okay, my concern was Blue Earth would just sort of delay and delay and delay till there was another election, and everybody who gathered information here might not be here, but that puts my mind at rest.
Yeah, they have to have their application in. I think they had a year and a half from May, something like that, Alan. So they've got that long. Go ahead, Sherry.
I just wanted to say quickly, at the meeting at the arena, I spoke with a fellow and I assumed he was there because he was against it, because he lives, if not right beside the proposed location, then the next field or so over. And I was surprised to learn that he said he was there just for information. He said, I'm not against it. And I just am here with an open mind to learn more about it. I know there's a long time before anyone has to make a decision. And I just wanted to say that there are folks like he wasn't, I mean, I totally understand your frustration from before. And he did live here, there before as well. So just to say some people are, content or whatever, I'm certainly not going to say his name, but are, waiting for more information to come forward.
There was somebody else at that meeting. He was up front and I was in the back. And he said, this is most people's largest investment. He said, I live something like 40 meters from where they will be. My little girl will be playing there. And I heard in his voice what I heard in the voices at that meeting a couple of years ago. I heard the scared terror that everything he had counted on. I mean, you move to a quiet country road. Would any of you want a bus beside you? That's the part that to me is hard. Some people are bearing the burden that other people, just through the good fortune of where they're located, don't have to bear. And to have what you plan, we moved here for the nature, for the forest. We didn't count on a giant concern with sound, lights, and possible damage a couple of kilometers from across the river from where we live. And I just don't understand how how Blue Earth really can expect people to be okay with their lives being totally upside. Jasmine moved. And it's too bad. She was an amazing citizen. She organized, she worked really hard to try and keep Blue Earth on the lines that they promised. Now, I don't know why she moved. I got to be honest. Maybe she just decided. But it sounds like she was fed up. And that's not fair to people. They're not giant corporations, but you take, it's a life. It's a life that we have a right to expect will be maintained. And I can even understand some dislocation for a solar farm, especially once the lines are buried as they were on Murphy, although they have destroyed the environment. My wife will point that out. Provincial wetlands that were supposed to be protected have completely dried up due to the cables in the trench. But I can see some temporary inconvenience, but this is not temporary inconvenience. This is something that if a wildfire, like in Quebec, sweeps over that place, either comes from the forest or comes from somewhere else and sets that place on fire, the whole township would be at risk. But you already know that.
Anyone else have comments or questions for Alan? Yes, Wendy.
I'm just wondering if we want to find out from our lawyer if there is anything negative that would occur to the township should we, at this stage now, write a letter if council was agreeable to it. What the lawyer would think if are we jumping the gun because we're not waiting for the environmental assessment, or are we jumping? Yeah, I don't think Greater Napanee got an application. I don't believe I'm not sure about that, but I don't think they had an application. I think they turned it down. Did they? So it was at that meeting that they turned it down. So Blue Earth is postponing that until they can convince us, maybe? I don't know. I don't know.
If I may revise, I believe the Greater Napanee sort of chronology of events Council Lalonde was one in that a public information open house session was made respecting the Blue Earth project on Little Creek Road, Little Creek Street. And essentially the town of Napanee didn't support the project because of the lack of responsiveness from Blue Earth to the members of the community and the concerns that were raised through that process of event at the subsequent council meeting. So there was a request made, and essentially it's my understanding through conversations with town staff that it was for that reason. So there was a request and a submission made to the town.
I guess my last comment would be when I don't live on Miller Road, but if I lived on Miller Road and this project was approved, I have to be honest, I would consider going to a lawyer to see if we could have a class action suit against the council and Blue Earth for the loss and destruction both of our quality of life and our property values. Of course, that's not something I want to do or would do, but if push came to shove at that point, that everything I'd invested in, my home, my child's safety, being forced to move, but move, where am I going to move? I'm not going to get anywhere near the market value of my home anymore. Who wants to move next to a giant, dangerous storage facility? So if I had only one last resort to make up that money, I would investigate a class action suit against, I don't know if it's legal or anything, but it is certainly something I would consider where I pushed into a corner that badly. So you might ask your lawyer about that as well while you're checking out. Would you be susceptible to class action suits if you approve this possibility?
Anyone else?
Thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. Can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Krista Lee, Wendy, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next item. Manager of Public Works and Emergency Services Thompson, special events permit, Ottawa Valley Powerboat Races. The motion would be that council receive this report and further that council approve the special event permit as submitted by Ottawa Valley Powerboat Club. Sherry and Wendy, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, any questions? Yeah, Ottawa Powerboat Association, they had everything in for their special event. We received the insurance certificate on Wednesday of last week. Looks like it's going to be a good event, and we're going to supply the fencing, the T-posts, any signage that they need that we've done in the past. I think this is the 5th or 6th year for the event.
Is it only that? It seems like it's been going on a lot longer. And I remember initially it was met with a fair amount of opposition from cottagers, but it seems to be just those that don't like it just put up with it at this point. I haven't heard any complaints about it for a long time. I don't know, people that live in the neighborhood, Wendy, yeah, it's just something that happens now.
I think though they've improved their quality of how they do things and made it more acceptable to the cottagers than it was in the first year or two.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when it's electric boats instead of burning gas. Go ahead, Wenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the report. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, if there's no more discussion, then I'll just call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. You're still on, I guess, Jeff. New firefighters. And the motion would be that council receive the report entitled New Firefighters for Information Purposes. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Wenda and Krista Lee. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Readwise. Yeah, the recruits graduated last Wednesday, I believe. They received their pagers on the 14th, which was Thursday the following day. 2 or 3 of them been on calls already, which is good. And it's really good group of recruits this year.
Any questions for Jeff? All in favor? That's carried. It's good to see people still joining the fire department. Surplus equipment. You've got stuff to sell, Jeff. What's this all? Get a mover and seconder for this. The council received the report and further the council declares this list of equipment surplus. Doug and Sherry, go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you again, Readwise. Yeah, One Items Roads, which is the tandem truck, Sterling 0309. There's some extrication tools that we replaced them with a set of electric tools. And then Cascade bottles that come out of one of our rescues that we sold. And we actually purchased a Cascade system for our trailer. So we had some extra bottles to surplus. PTO generator, which is, it ran this facility with a tractor. So it's a tractor PTO, which is going to be Jake's surplus. And then we have a hail foam system that came out of the pumper truck at Station 4 in Tamworth. And we replaced that unit with a EcoGel system.
Any questions for Jeff on any of that, Doug?
The battery powered tools I'm just asking for information purposes. They have the staying power of the hydraulic ones.
Yeah, through you. Wise, yeah, they're actually, the technology has improved immensely in 5 to 10 years. We got the cutters and we got the ram and the spreaders with this set.
Anyone else? Yes, Rob.
Just a quick thing, Jeff, in regards to publicizing this, and we spoke about it before. I'm assuming we're going to list these items on our social media so that all of us can share it and make sure the information is accurate. Just a lot of this is obviously not for residential use, but some of it might be, and it'd be valuable to our residents to know that it's for sale. I'll make sure I broadcast it.
Again, through your Readwise, it will be on our website, and our tandem truck we'll probably do on Toronto auction. We haven't used them before, but they came in with a 3% instead of a 6% selling fee. So we're going to try them out for the first time just on the heavy equipment side.
Anyone else? So the other stuff, Jeff, you say that's the truck that's going on the Toronto auction. What sort of auction site or how does it get listed? Or
It'll be on GovDeals, same as what we've used in the past. They have all kinds of different categories for that type of equipment.
okay, anyone else? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. I guess that takes us down to items for information, and this is the Blue Earth Letter of Commencement. This is the environmental assessment application. And the motion would be the council receives a letter referenced as Blue Earth Stone Mill Storage Project Minor Transmission Facility Class Environmental Assessment for information purposes. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Sherry and Wendy. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Reeve-Wise. Essentially, yeah, Blue Earth Renewables, as well in partnership with Stantec Environmental, have initiated the work with respect to the environmental assessment and the Class EA process. This is essentially provided for information purposes, and Blue Earth Renewables has circulated this to the neighboring property owners directly, as well as to the municipal staff. So staff wanted to ensure that members of council and those of the members of the public who are following council are aware of this as well. The details are contained within. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Krista Lee.
I'm just looking at this at the part where, okay, let me see. The project is subject to Class EA in accordance with the Ontario Environmental Assessment Act. The Class EA is a streamlined process for transmission projects anticipated to have a predictable range of environmental effects. This is the part that can feasibly be mitigated with protection measures in place. I'm just thinking of Alan's presentation here in the talk of the fencing that was to prevent animals and how that didn't work. So if there are to put in measures to mitigate issues, what is the recourse if those mitigations are ineffective or don't work? Or is there, so like in that case that he cited, would there be anything we could have done in that situation to hold them accountable for not actually mitigating what was supposed to be mitigated? And how might that apply in the situation? I know, Jason, that's maybe a bit of a big question, but just, yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Reeve. My short answer, Councillor Woodcock, would be essentially it's an MECP, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks approval process, fully administered through their regs. Whether they collect similar to what we do in the site plan world with a security and you know a financial security to do monitoring on site and do assessments, I'm not confident of that. So I would have to default to my colleagues at the ministry for that answer. But from a municipal perspective, there's very little recourse, truthfully, in my experience in working through a Class EA process, given the arm's length, if you will, of the ultimate approval authority of the process.
Anyone else? Yeah, and in the case that Alan Mayer was referring to, the Ministry of Natural Resources should have had someone on site. They're responsible for wildlife, and I don't know if anyone was. I can't remember now. There may have been someone who made an appearance at times, and you know, I'm not disputing what Alan was saying. I saw the pictures. There were a lot of little creatures that got trapped in between the fencing that was supposed to exclude them from the road, and it was a very sad situation. So unfortunately, in a project like this, as Jason says, it would be Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks responsibility. Now, having said that, we're not talking about many kilometers of roadway where construction is going on. In fact, compared to that, this is a very small area. 25-acre perimeter fencing, that's not a big deal at all. You can walk around it in 10 minutes. So it should be relatively simple to monitor and control a site like that from from the standpoint of exclusion of wildlife or something like that. What other requirements would be in place for the construction of a facility like this? We don't know. I'm not sure the government knows because nobody's done it before, right? So we're walking in the dark, and Blue Earth's walking in the dark. I mean, to give some credit to Blue Earth with the solar project, they approached that project as, here's what we're going to do, and they had the Green Energy Act behind them. The township really couldn't say no. And so they basically just told people, here's what we're doing, and you want to sign on, you'll get a bit of money if it's right next to you. That's not happening this time. So to give some credit to Blue Earth, they're trying to involve the community before they have all their ducks in a row, saying, we're at this position. If you have questions now and comments, let's hear them. We haven't got all the information we need yet. We haven't made our mind up yet. We're going to involve the community early. And now they're being criticized because they don't have all the answers. Whereas last time they were being criticized because they had all the answers and it was take it or leave it. So they're sort of damned if they do and damned if they don't. And I'm not siding with the project by saying that. I'm simply pointing out that this is a company that has learned something from its past mistakes, partly because it has to. It no longer has the power of the Green Energy Act behind it. Now it has to work with the community, and it is. It's trying to. Whether it's sincere or not, based on its past actions, you can question, and certainly Alan, and I'm sure Tracy and Dan don't trust Blue Earth as far as they could throw their heaviest or lightest employee. But they're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this project. And I'll say the same thing I said at the last meeting. How long are we going to leave our residents in a state of anxiety and uncertainty for a project that at this point, neither the applicant, which isn't even an applicant yet, nor the township, nor our province has any guidelines to go by, any concrete information. So, this is something I think we should be thinking about over the summer. Get a little more information, but are we going to wait a year and a half? That's what we got to, I don't know. I just think it is a valid question to ask. In any case, we have a mover and seconder. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I just, John, a little bit, and I didn't want to get into a debate with Alan, so I just let it go. The reason we were in that conversation last meeting was we started the conversation to see if we could hurry the process up. Okay? That we asked for information from Blue Earth, and we've got a meeting set up with them for next week. We were starting that process to try to move this process along. So I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little bit miffed at being targeted negatively when I was just sharing information. I'll just say it quite bluntly because I feel it, and I don't hide my feelings when I say it. Okay? We were trying to move this forward, but people have to understand that there's a process that we follow. We cannot be frivolous about this. We must do it correctly. Just thank you.
Thanks for raising that. We do have a site visit because we want to actually physically see where the project is going to be relative to where people live, get some idea of the natural environment there. So that's council members in Blue Earth. It's not a public meeting, but we're going to have a look at that. I guess it's at 2:00, is it? Yeah, next Monday. Yeah. Okay, anyone else on that? I think we got a mover and seconder. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, sorry, you may have noticed I didn't comment when Al was here. I'm trying to think about my role as a counselor here. And I was the one, if you recall, that scolded heavily on them when they first did arrive. And I do understand that I was not on council in the first round with the solar farm. So I don't have that information to draw from. That's a big disadvantage for me. So I just sit back and listen and learn. I think that's my job right now. And I find it very interesting that as much as I was upset with them when they first landed, it was about the approach. And I agree with you say, John, they're here, they're darned if they do, they're darned if they don't. What I didn't understand is that when they reached out to these people who live there directly, why did they not share with them that this was just a preliminary touch base visit and that there would be many public meetings after that. It seemed like they kind of missed that part, which is what caused all the confusion. Why not go in and say, this is our touch base consultation, but there's going to be lots of opportunity as we grow with this together. It would have saved a lot of hassle. And of course, we were getting calls and being asked for answers we didn't have. The residents had more information than we had. And then that, gives us a bad taste. So what I've done myself, and I don't know what everybody else here is thinking, but I'm treating this like being on a jury. And witnesses come, witnesses go, facts are presented. The judge will manage and say, this is what's real, this is what's not, maybe. All kinds of different things going on. I just sit and absorb, make a lot of notes. Here's my concerns. And as soon as the concerns are dealt with and I cross them off, then I start to lean one way or the other. We don't have a lot of information, this is true. We have some. The fact that they're brand new and no one's ever done this before, that's difficult to overcome because that's just simple fact. Is it safe? Is it not safe? No one's ever built one. How do you overcome that? That's making it very challenging. But on the other hand, as to Doug's point, you have to sit and let the dust settle. So as much as the idea of saying guilty or not guilty, I don't think you can do that until all the evidence is presented. Do I want to wait a year and a half? No, I don't. But maybe we need to give them a kick and say there is something going to happen sooner than later. It isn't going to happen tomorrow, but we got to step this up, and that's why we're going on site. Maybe we need to give them 90 days or something to give us more. I don't know. But to do it right away, like right now or in the next 3 weeks, I don't think that's fair to them. I'm not saying I'm in or out, but I think we need to take a deep breath, that's all. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a lot of money for us, but on the other hand, there's a lot of effect for our people. Just, I think we need some more time for sure. So that's all I'm getting at.
Anyone else? We have a mover and seconder to receive this information. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. New business, statements from members. Anyone? Yes, Sherry.
I'll just say real quick that the Tamworth 175th birthday celebration was a huge success. I have no idea about numbers yet, but it went over very well. And Saturday, July 1st, there's a couple of Canada Day celebrations in the township. The Newburgh one, the parade starts at 3:30, and I'm sure they would welcome anyone from council if you want to walk in the parade. I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing. And the Tamworth parade starts at 4:30 from the Hannah Funeral Home. And we would certainly invite everyone if they want to attend and walk together. That would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Anyone else? I would echo Sherry. Oh, go ahead, Wenda.
Just wanted to talk quickly about Stony Steps. It was very successful as well. It was held on Saturday. I had to work during the day, but I popped in after work and spent a bit of money that I shouldn't have, but it was well worth it. The vendors were wonderful and they had great turnout, and the weather was cooperated, and it was well organized as it was the year before. And it was a pleasure to see that they did so well. Just to echo Sherry's comments about Tamworth, I did a little bit of volunteering there, and it was the most well-organized event I've ever attended, right down to somebody handing out water bottles for dogs. I mean, it was the attention to detail was great, and the displays were wonderful. The music was terrific, lots and lots of people. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was an email that John and I received this week about some trees along the construction is it County Road 1? And was Jeff brought into the loop on that one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I emailed Chris Wager and we went back and forth about it.
Yeah. And so there's nothing that can be done for especially the big tall oak tree.
Well, it depends on how activist you want to get, Wenda. Have you got any rope and padlocks?
I'm saving that for the best project.
Here's the problem. The oak is smack dab in the middle where the sidewalk's going to go. And the other thing is, and I asked for clarification from Chris, when the county or the township for that matter does road work, in other words, they're actively involved in a project where there is, we'll call it an obstruction in the right of way, that's within the 2 meters of the the edge of the road, and Jeff can correct me on these numbers, you're liable, you're responsible to remove that object. It's not like it's something that's been there and you're not doing any road work. It's right there staring you in the face. You've got to remove it. It's a hazard.
Okay.
Somebody goes off the road, they're going to hit the tree. That's just how it is. So, you know, if you want to get right down to the worst case scenario, if in this case, county council approves that project, but make an exception for that tree and someone hits it, each individual councillor is personally liable in a lawsuit that would come forward. So that's the unfortunate financial implications of leaving the tree there.
So just to add one point then, in view of the fact that we can't do anything, when we're doing the parquet, could we make sure that a good sized tree gets planted in a safe spot on that parquet?
I'm not sure what our design is for landscaping there, Jeff. It has some trees
It
and
has
shrubs.
shrubs.
Yeah.
I know it has shrubs, but I wasn't sure if it had trees.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Just thank you, Revise. Just to add to that, the conversation I had with Mr. Wager today was replacing that tree for a 2-for-1. Like we've done that on our construction projects in the past. So he was going to approach the property owner, I believe, and replant 2 trees outside of the right of way.
Good. Any more new business or statements? Yes, Rob.
And really quickly, I wasn't planning on I was hoping to attend the Tamworth 175. And unfortunately, I found out a couple nights before that I had actually promised my wife I'd attend her first dragon boat race with her breast cancer crew. So I thought I was occupied, and then unfortunately she got sick and was unable to attend. So we went to the Tamworth 175, and as much as I felt bad that she couldn't do her dragon boat race, my goodness, am I ever glad that I was able to attend that. I can't even describe how proud I was to be a Stone Mills resident. And dating back to the Sheffield, Newburgh, Camden Township days when there was a bit of, degrees of separation there, it really felt like Stone Mills. It was so nice to see all the connections with people. I actually viewed a black and white video from the 40s that was captured on 8mm from a person in Rochester, New York. They tracked it down, digitized it, and it was the Tamworth skating rink when it was an open air rink. And in the background is my grandparents' home because my mom was raised in Tamworth, and they called it the Clancy House. That's the house with the circle drive up on the hill beside the I guess it would be the east side of the rink. Anyways, the Zamboni exit side. And I could see it, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's my grandparents' home, and it's an open air skating rink. And I was just mesmerized. And there were so many moments like that it went from being, we'll go over for a few hours and we'll probably head home, that we closed the place out. It was amazing. I did an 8-minute walkthrough video of the Tamworth Hotel. I'll share it on social when I get a chance to post it. It was incredible to see all this investment in our little hamlets. It's just crazy. So anyways, to Lorraine and Sherry and to Mark Oliver and their crew and all these people that gave so much time and effort to it, I can't even begin to tell you how happy I was to be there. It was shocking. So the whole time I was like, oh, I wish I could just bring everybody in the township here right now, no matter what you're doing. So thank you to those folks that did that. And the camera's up there. That was absolutely life-changing for me. So I just really wanted to get that out.
Thanks, Rob. I really enjoyed it too. I couldn't attend in the afternoon. I really wanted to see the Great Big Sea guys. Sean McCann. Yeah. I just had to work. But it was great to see the turnout. The weather cooperated, and that was a little dicey. And for me, it was just, I did my official thanks everybody kind of thing. But then I was just walking around, and I didn't really have to do anything because I kept hearing people say, John. And then I would go over and I'd have a 10-minute conversation with someone I hadn't seen for 3 years and learned all about a neighbor's back trouble. And I listened because I've had back trouble too, and it was just one after another of really nice community encounters. It was just a really pleasant experience for a couple hours. So I agree. It was great. So we have a closed meeting to discuss a personnel matter of an easily identifiable individual. So Dan, Tracy, you have to go. We'll take 5, yeah.